Back to another episode here. Today, I want to talk about why we as leaders need to step up and create more positivity in this world today. Someone said it the other day, and I'm hearing more and more conversations from CEOs and leaders about this. And it's pretty evident. It's evident in the work that we do, but people are feeling down and out. People are feeling deflated. People are feeling, as another individual said, beat up. And I can say, hands down, this is how many people are feeling today. So, what as leaders can we do to help people, and not only help other people, help ourselves? Because a lot of the CEOs that I'm talking to are feeling beat up and down and out themselves. But we have to rise up, we have to stand up, and we have to create a greater level of optimism and faith, right? And community and positivity that enables people to raise their collective energy. And as I said before, right now, what we are seeing is the lowest level of collective energy in society. And there's a number of reasons for that. I'm just going to quickly share one. One reason is that we are all part of a community, and a community is what we call a self-organized system. And a self-organized or self-organizing system typically goes between two ends of the spectrum. Okay, so I'm not going to say balance, but it shifts between two ends of the spectrum, which is either on the spectrum of order or the spectrum of chaos. And whenever you're on the spectrum of chaos, what ends up happening is that you waste a lot of energy. And that's what's happened through COVID. And that's what's happened through extensive use of technology. And that's what's happened through this whole tariff issue and these political challenges and people getting pinned against each other through the media and through the news, how we hate each other. All of this is creating more chaos in our system as a community, right? Because we are a self-organizing system. And what that is doing is that it's wasting a whole lot of energy. So people are wasting energy thinking about things that we shouldn't really be dwelling on. Yes, we should be thinking about things like wars and how to solve them, but we shouldn't have those wars in the first place, right? And it's because we have this low level of collective energy and people are more easily triggered and all their past grievances come up, that we are allowing this. And we're not just seeing this in Europe, for example, in the wars there or the Middle East. We're also seeing this in the Western society, in the US, and we're seeing more of this in Canada as well, where there's more civil discourse. And what we need to do is raise, as I mentioned before, the level of positivity and optimism in the workforce. So I'm a firm believer that in today's era, because so much of it is driven by the economy, and so much of it is driven by people now investing in AI and technology, that we have an opportunity in the business sector to help the overall world and community by raising our level of optimism. Why do I say this? I say this is because so many people right now, everything is based on the economy, and people are putting money into AI, not necessarily to help communities. If you take a look at where money is being invested, whether it's in stocks, for example, or other areas, yes, there is some in medicine, right, that is being invested in terms of AI, but everything else is for profit. And I always have to ask myself this question: why are so many people obsessed with AI? What is the ultimate purpose that it's going to do with people? I know I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here, but this is very, very important. It's ultimately to make money. That's essentially what it is, and there's an element of control within this as well. But I bring this to the table in this conversation for the reason that companies have a way bigger part to play now in people's happiness and in the community's happiness and the level of health and wellness that we have in our country. I can say Canada because I'm a citizen of Canada, but also in the US. So it starts with us as business leaders. It starts with us as business leaders to show up at work and bring a level of optimism and bring people together and collaborate and not bring in the political challenges into the workforce. And this is very important because if your workforce is low on energy, they're going out into the world and they're impacting everybody else and they're bringing everybody else's energy down. So you want a workforce that actually has a high level of energy. So what positive energy, what level of optimism are you bringing to your team today? Are you showing up grumpy? Are you showing up with all the stuff in your mind where you have all those challenges and you don't know how to go through and get through it in your own head and your own emotions? Are you thinking about all the stuff that's not going right in your personal life? Or are you showing up at work your best self? That is ultimately the best thing that you can do as a person and as a leader is to show up your best self. We have a saying here in one of our businesses called the Executive Lab, which is feel your best, right? That's ultimately part of our overall value proposition, is to feel your best. Because if you can feel your best, you can perform your best, lead your best, and ultimately achieve your best. But it starts with feeling your best. So I'm going to challenge you, and I'm going to encourage you to show up this week with as much positivity, enthusiasm, faith, optimism for life, because other people are craving it, other people are needing it, other people are desiring it. Think about your workforce and the talent that you can retain and the talent that you can acquire if you have that high level of energy in your workforce. This is just on another side note, this is another reason why people are leaving their companies. There's a lot of challenges when it comes to retention or acquisition of really good talent, or even level of engagement. So you might have some really good talent, but they're not fully engaged. Or you might have some really good talent and they're leaving your organization, or they're thinking about leaving your organization. Outside of the typical causes, one of the biggest causes we are seeing right now is a low level of energy. They are just not enthusiastic about coming to work. They're not enthusiastic about the work that you are doing in your organization. If you show up at work and say, hey guys, we really got to get through this challenge of tariffs, and hopefully we can make it. I'm not 100% sure. What level of confidence are you giving to your team? What level of energy are you giving to your team? Do you think a top performer is going to want to work for you when you show up like that? The answer is no. So this is why, again, if we want the best of the best in the workforce, we got to show up our best as well. And this is a competitive advantage going forward. This is why I love this conversation, is because anything that is a challenge or a detriment in business is also an opportunity. And this is an opportunity that can be captured. This is why, and some people are going to argue with me, but I'm always open to a nice, friendly debate. Why coming back to the office, I think, is a positive thing for many people. Now, I'm not saying people should come back 5 days a week. That's not what I'm saying. And it should be completely strict. I think people should be allowed to have flexibility. So if they want to work 3 days in the office, I think that's great. There needs to be absolutely some kind of structure. But it is very important that we have that level of socialization, because that's what creates energy in our community as a self-organizing system. There's 5 factors that make up a healthy self-organizing system. One of them is that the system has to have a sufficient level of energy. The higher the level of energy, the better. And if the system is low on energy, then the community starts to fall apart. And then the individuals within the community start to fall apart. If you take a look at why in the blue zones, people live past 100 years old and they're not taking any supplements, right? They don't have access to this technology. What they do have access to is other people in safe and trusting relationships that create a community where there is trust, where someone can rely on the other person, and there's a higher level of energy. And that is part of a healthy self-organizing system. So when people work from home and are isolated from other human beings, and I don't care what you say, virtual, and we know this through studies, virtual communication and virtual interactions are not the same thing as having another human being in front of you, where you are 100% present with them, making eye-to-eye contact and connecting with them. There is a level of energy that is transferred there. And this is why people are craving in-person workshops, for example, and events. We are seeing this now, where business leaders are saying, we don't want more virtual events. We want to meet people in person. So if you do have a policy where people are coming back to the office, then I'm going to say good on you. Again, I think it should be flexible. People are adults. They should be able to go home when they want to, or take their kids to the doctor's appointments and so forth. But we also need that energy in the community. We need to bring that back. And that starts ultimately with us as the CEOs or the leaders. Now, this is specifically for the CEO, but it applies to every single person out there. Someone said this when I was in a workshop once. They said the role of a CEO is to be the chief energy officer. That's not my saying, but I absolutely agree with that saying. A person needs to show up full as a CEO with their highest level of energy, because that's what trickles down to throughout the organization. Another part to this as well is, what is the energy that we are showing up with at home? It's very, very important, because you can give everything to your workplace. You can give all your energy And I always say, if you have 100 units of energy every single day, where are you going to put it? You got to be very intentional. And if you put all of that energy into the workplace, how much of that are you still keeping for your home life? Do you give everything to your work? Do you give 90% to your work and you come home with 10% for your spouse and your kids? Because that's not going to work out very well, because now you have to give it to them. And then also, what about yourself? What are you going to do for yourself? How much energy do you have left for yourself? But there is a system. There is a way. It can absolutely be done. We help people do this ourselves. So we know that this is 100% completely possible. And it starts with you. Let's raise this collective level of energy. Let's get people feeling better. Let's get people showing up to work better. Let's get families coming together better so that we can raise the level of energy in the society and ultimately have a healthier society and community. But what this does, now I'm going to tie it right back to business. When you have a healthy community and a healthy society and a healthy country, the economy also goes up and people make more money. People become more successful in their professions. That is the beauty of this. It is a win-win-win situation. So that is, again, my challenge for you this week is to show up every single day with the highest level of energy, with the highest level of optimism, and bring and give that energy to other people.